Every morning upon waking, we face a singular moment, a doorway between the unchangeable past and the uncertain future. In that moment, you hold a quiet yet profound power, the power to choose who you will be today. Most of us wake up and are immediately swept into habit, checking our phones, complaining about work, worrying about things that haven't happened yet. But the Stoic does it differently. They take 1 minute, just 1 minute, to say the right things to themselves. Not to show off, but to guide their mind. Like a soldier sharpening his sword before battle, they prepare their inner life before stepping into the day. Because they understand, how you begin the morning can shape your entire life. In this video, I'll share the words you should whisper to yourself each morning, not to control the world, but to master yourself. And it all begins with awareness. 1. Today is a new beginning. There is a simple truth we often forget. Every morning is a chance to begin again. Not everyone is granted that privilege. When the first light of day slips through the window, it's not just a signal for the body to wake. It's life's quiet reminder that you've been given another chance. A chance to correct mistakes, to let go, to choose differently, to live today with more clarity than yesterday. The Stoic does not repeat yesterday as if it were fate. They see each morning as a blank page and ask themselves, what will I write on it today? Many wake up still carrying yesterday's weight. A small mistake, a hurtful word, a look of disapproval, or simply a quiet feeling of failure. All these things sneak into the morning, cling to us like a shadow, and dim the promise of the new day. But if you pause, breathe slowly, and remind yourself, today is a new beginning, you will realize that the past holds no power unless you grant it. What's done is done. No one can return to yesterday to redo it, but anyone can begin today to change the rest of their life. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." When you wake and see yourself in the mirror, the only person you need to speak with is yourself. You don't need anyone's permission to begin again. You don't need external validation to let go. You need only one thing, a choice. And you can make it in the very moment your eyes open. That is what true freedom is. Not controlling the world, but mastering yourself within it. Picture a familiar scene. Yesterday, you lost your temper at a co-worker. You went home and felt regret. All evening you wrestled with the thought, I shouldn't have said that. But there's no going back. So, what remains for you? The next morning. When you open your eyes, you stand at a fork in the road. Carry that regret like a burden, or use it as a reason to act better. It might be a sincere apology, a kind gesture, or simply the decision to no longer react impulsively. That small choice can open a new door, a better version of yourself. A new beginning doesn't have to be grand. It doesn't require you to change your life in a single morning. Sometimes, a new beginning is just the courage to get out of bed with a heavy heart, to splash cold water on your face, to resist reaching for your phone in the first 15 minutes so you don't get pulled into unconscious habits. It's choosing to eat breakfast slowly rather than rushing, to listen to calming music instead of distressing news. A new beginning is a state of mind, not an external event. And it starts the moment you tell yourself, today, I won't live on autopilot. I will live with intention. The Stoic believes we are not defined by what happens to us, but by how we choose to respond. Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." That's why each morning is an opportunity to respond differently, to choose again. You failed yesterday. Today, you can try again. You felt discouraged yesterday. Today you can take one small step forward. Don't underestimate small beginnings, for all great changes start from a quiet decision made in the morning. 2. I am grateful to be alive for one more day. There's something strange about human nature. We often take life for granted until it's threatened, lost, or we witness someone who no longer has the chance we do. We wake up, open our eyes, stretch, and get out of bed without thinking that we've just made it through another peaceful night, that some who were alive yesterday are no longer here this morning. If there's anything worth being grateful for each day, it's this: that we are still here with a beating heart, a deep breath, and light streaming through the window. That is the beginning of everything, and it's not as ordinary as we often assume. Stoicism doesn't teach us to admire life in grand gestures, but to recognize life in its most essential form, to exist, to awaken, to be present. Seneca once wrote, "We count the years, but forget to count the days. Each day that passes is a gift, and we never know how many more we'll receive." When you see a morning as your last chance to live rightly, to make amends, to love and to grow, then gratitude ceases to be a mechanical ritual. It becomes a way of being, a state of awareness. Gratitude doesn't mean everything in your life is good. It doesn't demand life be fair, perfect, or as you wish. In truth, gratitude holds its deepest value when life is hard. When you're still anxious, still hurt, still lost, and yet you can pause and say, "I'm still breathing. I can still see the sky. I still have time to try." In those moments, gratitude becomes strength. It steadies you in the storm, helps you see beyond what's wearing you down, and returns you to the core of existence. So long as you're alive, you still have a chance. There are those who no longer have that chance. They didn't wake up this morning. They can no longer call a loved one, step outside, feel the sunlight, or hear their favorite song. We, the living, still can choose. Choose to be kinder than yesterday. Choose to forgive. Choose to try again. And gratitude is what keeps us from taking those chances for granted. It doesn't make life less difficult, but it makes us stronger for the road ahead, whether smooth or rugged. Nick Vujicic, a man born without arms or legs, is proof of gratitude's power. At just 10 years old, he wanted to end his life, feeling useless and hopeless, but then he chose to focus on what he had: a sharp mind, a brave heart, an unbreakable spirit. From that moment, he began living with deep gratitude, not for what he lacked, but for what remained. Today, he inspires millions across the world, not because he has everything, but because he is grateful. You don't need a major event to appreciate life. Tomorrow morning, just pause for a few seconds when you open your eyes and say, "I am grateful to be alive for one more day." No grand prayer required. No complex ritual needed. Just sincerity. A moment to look at the sky and feel the breath in your lungs. A loving glance towards someone you care for. A kind gesture toward yourself. These are the most vivid expressions of gratitude. And they are the beginning of a meaningful day. Gratitude doesn't change your circumstances, but it changes your perspective. When you're grateful to be alive, you stop wasting energy on the trivial. You stop squandering time on complaints. You begin to act with responsibility. Gratitude is the foundation of virtue, because a grateful person becomes more humble, more compassionate, and more capable of living deeply. In Stoic thought, this is the mark of a balanced mind, a steady heart, and a self-governed soul. And you don't need to wait for a birthday, a holiday, or a big success to feel grateful. Begin with this morning, with the quiet pulse in your chest, with the simple truth that you're still here, still breathing. Say it to yourself, not as a positive affirmation, but as a profound truth. I am grateful to be alive for one more day. 3. I am not afraid of failure. Few things hold us back more than the fear of failure. It makes us hesitate before trying something new, stalls us even when we have a clear idea, and worst of all, keeps us from ever starting. This fear seeps into every decision, every dream, and every opportunity we let slip away. But the Stoic doesn't see failure as an end. They see it as part of the path, as a lesson, as a mirror that reflects the truth about oneself. And that's why each morning you should remind yourself, I am not afraid of failure. Because if you fear failure, you will fear life itself. To live is to stumble, to adjust, to relearn how to rise. The Stoics believe that a person's worth is not measured by how often they succeed, but by how they face adversity. A great person is not someone who always wins, but someone who refuses to let failure corrupt their character, who doesn't use a fall as an excuse to quit. Failure, when viewed rightly, doesn't wound us. It is our negative attitude toward failure that weakens us. There was a time I shelved a personal project, not because it wasn't feasible, but because I thought, if I fail, it'll be embarrassing. Later, I realized that shame wasn't caused by failure, but by an ego overly sensitive to judgment. That's when I began to change. I chose to act, even knowing I might not succeed. I chose to experience, even if it meant I could be wrong. And once I dared to do that, I started living more honestly with myself. The Stoic sees failure as a necessary part of inner training. Seneca once wrote, "Don't wish for things to be easier. Wish for yourself to be stronger." That's not empty motivation. It points to a single truth. What needs to change is not the situation, but your capacity to face it. When you allow yourself to fail, you open the door to growth. You enter a place called uncomfortable but necessary, where real lessons are taught not by theory, but through pain and experience. Thomas Edison failed thousands of times before inventing the light bulb. He didn't see each failure as a mistake, but as a step closer to the solution. J.K. Rowling wrote the first chapters of Harry Potter while unemployed, broke, and depressed. Not because she was certain of success, but because she no longer feared failure. These people didn't lack fear. They simply refused to be ruled by it. That is the Stoic spirit, meeting hardship with reason, acting with awareness, and letting time reveal the strength of your resolve. Each morning, when you remind yourself, I am not afraid of failure, you are declaring something profound, that you have chosen courage over comfort. You are rejecting a life dictated by, what if I fail? You are giving yourself permission to try, to learn, to correct, and to grow. Because you understand that failure is not a period, it's a comma. A brief pause to reflect, adjust your course, and continue your journey with a steadier heart. And remember, the fear of failure will always be there, like a quiet companion, but you don't have to let it drive. You can listen to it, understand it, and gently set it aside to keep moving forward. Because the Stoic doesn't live to avoid failure. They live to become stronger with each fall, and you can begin the same way with a simple yet powerful phrase, I am not afraid of failure. 4. I am growing every day. There are days when you wake up and wonder, am I making any progress at all? You're still doing the same tasks, still facing the same challenges, still struggling with emotions you thought you had outgrown. You look around and see others seemingly moving faster, farther, more confidently, and you You're still here, feeling slow and uncertain. But in that very moment, you must remind yourself of something important. I am growing every day. Not all progress is loud. Some growth happens in silence, in small choices, and in changes only you can feel. The Stoic does not measure growth by instant results. They look at repeated effort, at perseverance in discomfort, at your ability to choose what's right over what's easy. You may not clearly see how you've changed, but notice. Have you learned to stay silent instead of arguing? Have you learned to pause when emotions run high? Have you begun to care for yourself more, to say no when needed? If the answer is yes, then that is growth, quiet but deep. Growth isn't a leap. It's a series of small, steady steps, sometimes tiring, but always forward. You don't need a dramatic transformation to prove you're evolving. You just need to stay honest with your process. Someone who gets up after every fall, even if only to walk a little further, is still growing more than someone who stays seated in comfort. And the difference lies in that choice, the choice to continue. I once had a friend say, "I feel like I'm not going anywhere. Every day feels the same." But months later, when she faced a stressful situation, she didn't react the way she used to. She was calmer, wiser, clearer about what to do and what to let go of. That's when she realized she had grown, not through anything dramatic, but through unseen internal shifts. And I believe you're going through the same. Growth that needs no display, no applause, only your own quiet recognition. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Nothing great is created suddenly." He wasn't speaking about worldly achievements, but about the steadiness of the mind, a strength built over time, through consistency, through each decision to live more virtuously than the day before. The Stoics believe that growth doesn't require an audience. You don't need to be noticed to know you're on the right path. All you need is to ask yourself daily, how did I live better today than I did yesterday? And sometimes the answer is simply, I didn't give up. Pay attention to the habits forming, the reactions softening, the thoughts becoming less extreme. Acknowledge each time you choose dignity over impulse, even when no one is watching. Be proud of every moment you speak the truth, despite the fear of judgment, every time you remain silent when you could lash out, every time you care for yourself instead of neglecting your well-being. That is growth, real, clear, and free of the need for perfection. And most importantly, you don't need to rush. You don't need to compare your path to anyone else's. The Stoics teach us there is no universal timeline. Each person has their own rhythm, their own road, their own lessons. What matters is that you are not standing still in your mind, that you don't let yourself drift unconsciously, that you choose to live with awareness, to improve, even by just 1% each day. So in the morning, before the day sweeps you away, take a minute to tell yourself, I am growing every day. Let that phrase be more than encouragement. Let it be affirmation that you're on the path, that you're still moving, and that every quiet step is shaping you into someone steadier, deeper, and strong enough to live a meaningful life. 5. I am capable of great things. There are days when you feel like just another ordinary person among millions. You look around and see talented, accomplished, confident people, while you're still struggling with small steps, unfinished plans, and dreams you haven't dared to speak aloud. And you wonder, am I good enough to do something meaningful? In that moment, what you need most isn't a degree, money, or recognition, but a quiet, unwavering belief. I am capable of great things. A Stoic never measures their worth by how others see them. They don't define value through praise, fame, or social status. They believe true potential doesn't come from external things, but from inner strength, from an unyielding will, from refusing to abandon yourself even when everything around you shakes. Inside each of us lies a seed of greatness, but it only grows when you are brave enough to nurture it, with action, with persistence, and with trust in yourself. Self-belief isn't something you're born with. It's built over time. Each time you face a challenge and don't back down. Maybe you failed, been underestimated, or felt unremarkable. But none of that denies your true value. Epictetus once said, "Nothing great is created suddenly." Greatness doesn't arrive overnight. It comes after countless moments where you choose to stand up and move forward with nothing but faith. Look at those who were overlooked, who started late, who weren't recognized. Vera Wang wasn't a fashion designer in her 20s. She was once a failed figure skater, then a fashion editor, and only began designing wedding dresses, starting with her own, at age 40. She didn't let age or a late start stop her. It was her belief in herself that built the fashion empire bearing her name. And you can do the same, if you believe deeply enough, and if you're brave enough to begin. Greatness isn't always loud. Sometimes it's the quiet courage to hold on to a dream, to write one line when no one's watching, to learn a new skill without anyone's encouragement. It's choosing to develop yourself daily, not to outshine someone else, but to avoid abandoning yourself. The Stoic doesn't compare their path to anyone else's. They measure growth by one standard only. Did I live better than I did yesterday? The world may not believe in you right away. You may not have anyone cheering you on at the beginning. But that's not a reason to stop believing in yourself, because great things always begin in silence, in the quiet hours of work, in early mornings no one sees, in the right decisions no one notices. And one day, when your patience, focus, and belief have taken root, the results will speak for themselves. So every morning when you look in the mirror, don't just see what's missing or what hasn't been done. See the eyes that have already endured more than you remember. See the strength you've shown when no one noticed. Remember, you don't need to be anyone else to do something great. You only need to be yourself, the version that doesn't give up, that keeps learning, that keeps moving. Tell yourself clearly, firmly, I am capable of great things. Then begin your day like someone quietly building something extraordinary, with calm and with resolve. 6. I control my thoughts and emotions. In a world of constant turbulence, where everything can change with a single call, a text, or an accidental glance, inner stability is no longer a luxury, it's a necessity. You can't control what others say, how they act, or what challenge life throws at you next. But you can always control one thing, your response. And that's why you must repeat each morning as a commitment to yourself. I control my thoughts and emotions. The Stoics understood that emotions aren't the enemy, but if left unchecked, they can turn us into victims of our own minds. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, it is not the thing itself that troubles you, but your judgment of it, and this you can change at any moment." This is not denial of emotion. It's a reminder that between an external trigger and our internal response lies a gap, and in that space, we have the power to choose. You can be insulted, but you don't have to be angry. You can face something unpleasant, but you're not obligated to react negatively. Every time you withhold a harsh word, every time you choose silence over argument, every time you adjust a negative thought before it shapes your actions, that is self-control. That is a trained mind. And you don't need to be a philosopher or spiritual guru to do it. You just need to pause, take a deep breath, and remind yourself. Emotions may arise, but I decide what stays. I once witnessed a friend walk into a high-pressure meeting where direct criticism was aimed at her. Everyone expected her to snap, to defend herself, but she simply nodded, listened, took notes, and responded with calm that surprised everyone. When I asked how she felt, she said, "I felt hurt, but I didn't let that emotion dictate my actions." That wasn't weakness, it was inner strength, the kind few people have. And that strength came from the daily habit of managing thoughts and emotions. Control does not mean suppression. The Stoics don't deny sadness, don't reject anger, don't ignore disappointment. They acknowledge them, observe them, then place them in their proper place. Emotions are not crushed, they are transformed into awareness. Thoughts aren't left drifting, they are directed by reason. They treat their mind like a fortress, one where only what is worthy is allowed in. And you can build that fortress too, by starting with a simple act. Being mindful of what you permit yourself to think and what you choose to believe. Each day you'll face situations that bother you, traffic jams, harsh words, disrespect. But the threat is not that they happen, it's how long you let them affect your mood. When you let a stranger ruin your day, you've handed them control they never deserved. The Stoic gives no one that power. They guard their peace of mind like a priceless possession because they know, if that is lost, everything else falls into chaos. 7. I choose a positive attitude. In life, the one thing you can always control is your attitude. Work won't always go smoothly. Not everyone will be kind, and not every situation will be pleasant. But no matter what you face, you can always choose how you respond. And that choice, quiet as it may be, has the power to shape the quality of an entire day, even an entire life. That's why each morning, before the world pulls you in every direction, take a moment to remind yourself, I choose a positive attitude. The Stoic does not practice blind optimism. They don't deny the existence of hardship, loss, or injustice. They simply refuse to let those things define their mood or dictate their actions. To them, a positive attitude isn't a fake smile. It's a form of resilience cultivated by reason. It's when you face adversity and still believe you can remain calm. It's when you witness something unjust and refuse to let it distort your character. It's when you place clarity above pessimism, not because everything is good, but because you've decided not to let the bad pull you down. You might walk outside and get stuck in traffic, hear a rude comment, or receive bad news that upends your day. These things can't always be predicted or avoided. But one thing you can always do is pause for a moment, take a deep breath, and ask yourself, do I want this to ruin my mood? And if you've trained long enough, the answer will be no. Not because you've gone numb, but because you've chosen to live differently. A way of life where you manage your emotions instead of letting them manage you. I once heard a story about a man who worked in a hospital, a place filled daily with pain, loss, and fatigue. Yet he always walked into each shift with a soft smile, a calm presence that brought ease to his co-workers and patients. When asked how he kept his spirit in such a high-pressure environment, he answered simply, I can't control who lives or dies, but I can control how I treat them in the time they have left. That is Stoicism, choosing your attitude based on what you can control, not on what the world demands of you. A positive attitude doesn't come from everything going right. It comes from training the mind. It shows when you no longer wait for others to be kind in order to be kind yourself, when you don't require life to be fair before you feel grateful, when you stop demanding that everything go your way just to stay calm. You choose a positive attitude not because life is easy, but because you know if you don't, you'll make it harder on yourself. Attitude is the armor you put on each morning to protect your inner life from external chaos. The Stoic also knows that attitude spreads. It doesn't just affect you, it touches those around you. A single smile from you on a bad day can lift someone's burden. A kind word offered when provoked can ease the tension in an entire relationship. A quiet nod instead of a harsh reply can preserve peace that others didn't even realize was at risk. And each of those moments, each of those choices, is the visible strength of a mind trained by conscious living. You don't have to be cheerful all the time. There will be days when you're tired, sad, or need silence. That's okay. A positive attitude doesn't reject those feelings. It lets you meet them with compassion. It helps you rise again after exhaustion, continue on after hurt, and keep the light within from dimming, even on the darkest days. 8. I will take action today. There is a subtle trap many people fall into every day. Waiting. Waiting for the perfect time to start. Waiting until they feel ready, certain, inspired. But the truth is, if you keep waiting, you'll wait forever. Life is never truly ready for you. You must be the one to act, even with doubts, with unrest, with unsteady steps. And that's why, each morning, you should tell yourself, I will take action today. The Stoic does not waste time in endless thought. They don't need everything to be clear to begin, because they understand that clarity doesn't come before action, it comes through it. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Don't talk about philosophy, embody it." A powerful reminder that knowledge is useless if not lived. Similarly, a dream remains an illusion unless action turns it real. You can read hundreds of books, watch thousands of videos, and listen to endless advice. But if you don't begin, it all stays suspended in the mind. I once delayed a personal project for months simply because I felt unready. I'd write and delete, plan and abandon, always using the excuse, it's not the right time. Until one day, I heard a simple phrase, you don't need to be great to start, but you have to start to become great. That changed everything. I realized that waiting to feel ready was a form of self-deception. In truth, I was just afraid. Afraid of doing it poorly, of being judged, of failing. But eventually I understood. Not acting out of fear is the surest way to never achieve anything at all. The Stoic sees action as the highest form of reason. It doesn't need to be loud or grand. Sometimes, action is just clearing a corner of your desk, writing a short paragraph, making a phone call, or offering an apology. Action is how you show the world and yourself that you are living with awareness, that you are not drifting, not led by impulse, but consciously steering your life. Every time you act, even in the smallest way, you build confidence, discipline, and momentum, things you cannot gain by just thinking. In truth, action doesn't require inspiration. It's the other way around. Action generates inspiration. The Stoic doesn't wait for a good mood before starting. They begin and let the process fuel them. Like when you exercise, at first your body feels heavy, your mind resists. But after a few minutes, clarity arrives. You feel alive, in control, fully present. That feeling of self-command is the reward of action, never its prerequisite. And if today you feel stuck, unsure what to do, begin with the smallest possible thing. Write one sentence, read one page. Step outside and walk for 10 minutes. Don't demand that every action produce immediate results. Trust that each small step matters, that you are laying the foundation for something larger. Thomas Edison failed thousands of times before perfecting the light bulb. He didn't act because he was certain of success. He acted because he knew action was the only path to answers. I used to think that changing my life required something dramatic, switching careers, moving cities, or starting over completely. But after many attempts and disappointments, I realized that what truly changes a life isn't the grand turning points, but the quiet, repeated choices made each morning. A truthful phrase, a positive thought, a consistent action, these seemingly small things have the power to shape a day and gradually an entire life. When I started taking a few minutes each morning to tell myself simple phrases like, "I will take action today," or "I control my emotions," I didn't feel anything special. But after a few weeks, I began to notice my mind becoming clearer, calmer, and more directed. Each phrase stopped being a reminder and became a guiding principle. I was no longer swept away by circumstances. I began to live with intention, and to me, that was the beginning of true freedom. Try choosing one of these phrases and repeat it each morning. Don't expect instant results. Just stay consistent. A seed takes time to sprout, and so does the inner life. If you found this content helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you won't miss what's coming next. And remember, each new day is a chance to begin again, with more calm, more resolve, and a life closer to the person you believe you can become. See you in the next video.